A love confession on the big screen? Alden Richards and Maine Mendoza stir excitement once again. A new wave of speculation is spreading among fans, and this time, it carries a thrilling twist. What if Alden Richards and Maine Mendoza choose to reveal something deeply personal through their movie? The idea may sound bold, even cinematic, but for a pair whose story has always blurred the line between fiction and reality, it somehow feels possible. When real and real begin to overlap. From the very beginning, Alden and Maine's connection has been unique. What started as an on-screen pairing quickly turned into something that felt real to millions watching. So now, with talks of a possible reunion project, fans are asking, could their long-awaited Aminan, confession, happen within the story itself? Imagine a film where their characters slowly rediscover each other, old feelings resurface in quiet, emotional scenes, and in a powerful climax, a confession unfolds, one that feels too real to be just acting wire. It's the kind of moment that would leave audiences wondering, is this still part of the script or something more? A bold yet meaningful approach. If Alden and Maine ever choose to align a personal revelation with a film, it wouldn't be for shock value. It would be intentional. Because doing something like this requires deep trust in each other, confidence in their growth as individuals, and a shared understanding of the story they want to tell, both on and off screen. Rather than a public press conference or dramatic announcement, a film offers something different, a space where emotions can unfold naturally, without pressure. The power of storytelling. Cinema has always been a powerful way to express what words alone cannot. For Alden and Maine, a movie could become more than just a project. It could serve as a reflection of their journey, a safe space to revisit their connection, a subtle way to communicate something meaningful to their audience. And if a confession were to happen within that context, it would feel less like a reveal and more like a moment of truth unfolding organically. Fans are already imagining it. Even without confirmation, fans can't help but picture how it would play out. A quiet scene, a heartfelt conversation, a line delivered with just enough emotion to make everyone pause. And then, a confession that feels so sincere, so genuine, that it blurs every boundary between acting and reality. It's not just about what is said, it's about how it is felt. Risk or reward? Of course, combining something personal with a professional project carries risks. Expectations would be incredibly high. Every scene would be analyzed. Every word would be interpreted beyond its surface meaning. But at the same time, the reward could be unforgettable. Because if done right, it wouldn't just be another film. It would become a moment in entertainment history. A story still unfolding. At its core, the idea of Alden Richards and Maine Mendoza aligning a confession with a movie reflects something deeper. People are still invested. People still believe there's more to their story. And maybe that's why this idea continues to grow, because their connection has never felt fully finished. What if it really happens? If the day comes when their Aminan happens alongside a film, it won't just be about confirming feelings. It will be about timing, growth, and choosing to share something meaningful in the most creative way possible. Until then, everything remains a possibility. But one thing is certain. When it comes to Alden Richards and Maine Mendoza, even the idea of a confession is enough to make people watch closely and hope a little more. When fiction becomes the safest truth. If ever Alden Richards and Maine Mendoza choose to let their Aminan unfold within a film, it wouldn't just be creative, it would be strategic in the most emotional way. Because sometimes the safest place to say something real is behind a character. In a script, emotions are expected. Confessions are natural. Vulnerability is part of the story. And that creates a space where words can be spoken without the immediate weight of real-world pressure. But what makes it powerful is this. When the emotion is genuine, the audience feels it instantly. A scene that could change everything. Picture the defining moment. The film has been building up slowly, filled with tension, longing, and unresolved feelings. Their characters have danced around the truth for most of the story. Then comes the turning point. A quiet setting, no background noise, just the two of them. Alden's character finally speaks, his voice steady but carrying years of restraint. Maine's character listens, her expression soft but guarded. And then the line comes. Not overly dramatic, not poetic, just simple and real. A confession. But here's where it becomes unforgettable. It doesn't feel like acting anymore. The silence that follows says just as much as the words. The way they look at each other feels unscripted, almost as if time pauses, not just for the characters, but for Alden and Maine themselves. That's the moment audiences would hold on to. The line between performance and reality. What has always made their pairing special is the way they blur the boundary between performance and authenticity. So if a confession happens in a film, people won't just watch it, they'll analyze it. Was that line delivered differently than expected? Did their expressions linger a little longer than scripted? Was there something in their eyes that couldn't be rehearsed? These are the details that turn a simple scene into something iconic, because when emotions are real, no script can fully contain them. After the scene ends, perhaps the most intriguing part isn't the confession itself, but what happens after. Do they address it publicly? Do they let the moment exist on its own without explanation? Or do they simply move forward, allowing people to interpret it in their own way? That silence could become just as powerful as the confession, because in that silence, fans would continue to wonder, discuss, and believe. A different kind of reveal. In an era where everything is announced, confirmed, and made official instantly, doing something like this would feel different, subtle, artistic, almost timeless. Instead of a headline, it becomes a scene. Instead of a statement, it becomes a story. And instead of answers, it leaves behind a feeling, one that stays long after the credits roll. Why it matters so much. The reason this idea resonates so deeply isn't just because of Alden and Maine. It's because people see something in them that feels rare. A connection that wasn't forced. A story that unfolded naturally. A bond that, even with distance, never fully disappeared. So the thought of a confession, especially one woven into a film, feels like a full circle moment. Not just for them, but for everyone who followed their journey. And if it remains just a possibility. Even if this never happens, the idea itself already tells a story. It shows how much impact they've had, how deeply people are still invested, how their connection continues to inspire imagination and hope. Because not every story needs a clear ending. Some are meant to stay open, evolving, unfolding, and leaving just enough mystery to keep people believing. One thing remains true. Whether the Aminan happens on screen, off screen, or not at all, one thing is certain. When Alden Richards and Maine Mendoza share a moment, real or fictional, it carries a weight that few pairings can replicate. And maybe that's why the world continues to watch. Not just for confirmation, but for that feeling that somehow there's still more to their story waiting to be told.